Hey everyone, this is SodaMan420. As always, thanks for watching. Just wanted to share with you guys for a minute or two a couple of concepts and ideas about the importance of organization during a squad war. And what I wanted to just make note real quick was that when you start a squad war, okay, you normally have 24 hours to sort of prep your base, to make sure that everything is right with your layout and everything. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. But one of the things that we want to make sure that all of our new order, new players know is that it's very important that, if at all possible, that you show up right at the beginning of the squad war. Okay, and I'm just going to use this particular squad here that we happen to be up against as a good example here. Now, when you look at their layout of players and everything like that, it's a fair bet that some of them have a bunch of different planets and things like that, just based on their level. And the basic concept when you're in a squad war is it's 15 on 15. Okay, and these planets in the middle here are what we call the ops, or the planets that, when they're captured to our side, they give us some kind of a buff or some kind of an advantage that you don't get when the other team controls them. When the clock comes down to 0 12 hours from now, so that'll be around 10:30, 11 o'clock a.m. tomorrow, what happens is these particular planets become available to capture. Okay, they start out in the center and they become available to capture. And what happens is each of these particular planets gives you a different buff. So let's use this one for example. Tatooine, which everybody starts with, that particular planet gives you an advantage that any vehicles that you use in your attack against the other bases, the other team, all of those vehicles deal increased damage. When you take a look at Yavin 4, what happens is any starfighters or airstrikes that you use, or air support that you use, is going to do increased damage. Okay, and then this one is a defensive buff on air kit, and what that does is it makes it so that your HQ building has higher hit points, and also that your walls that you use in your base are harder to bust through. Okay, so in general, the main concept of this video that we want to get across to you is that it's great and a best fit if you can have a team that has all of the planets. Okay, and what you want to do is, before anybody attacks on the team, you want to make sure that you secure at least all the offensive buffs. So what that means is, at least before you make an attack, you want to make sure that somebody from your team, preferably somebody towards, the bottom side of, okay, the like the group here, maybe level 5, 6, 7, 8, what have you, have them start out by getting Tatooine. That'll get them in a good habit of learning the importance of that, and then they'll get a chance to see the difference that it makes when they make their attack on, say, their mirror. Now, what do we mean when we say their mirror? So I'm just going to use Beanstalk here as an example, right? So when we say your mirror, what that means is you look at your own position in the lineup, okay, and then you click on this tab right here for the other team, and the person that's in your spot right here is your mirror. Okay, so my mirror today is this person right here, Greggy, right? So what you want to do, okay, is you want to make sure that you take some time to go ahead and scout the base, try to locate some weaknesses and things like that in the base that you can exploit later on, and maybe make a strategy for attack when it's our turn to do that, okay? The last thing that I want to make mention is that there's a lot of questions about using the frags and the skins and everything in the Armory Center. So let's just give a good example here. So right now I'm on Hoth. Okay, let me see if I have the ability to jump to regular. I don't right now. So what you want to point out on this is that if I were, in my regular play base, okay, my PvP game based on Tatooine or Airkit, one of the other desert planets, when I go to this screen and when the war starts, when you go to click and attack this base, any skins that you use, okay, that can be used on a desert planet will be able to be used to attack only the buff planets, only the ops planets. That means that if I go to attack, my mirror, any buffs that I have on, or any, any skins that I have on my in my armory are not going to be effective when I go to attack a player. But as long as you are physically on a planet, okay, like for example, if Hoth were in this game matchup, I could use some of the ice skins that I have, and the cold weather, this and that. and be able to go and attack Hoth if it were up here. Okay, but let's just use Tat as an example now. What would happen is I'd have to be physically on Tatooine, and when the war starts, I could use any of the desert troop skins and things like that. Likewise, I'd have to be on a green planet, so that's Dandarin, Yavin, Takodana, if you want to attack a green planet. Okay, and just remember that Air Kit and Tatooine are the same. They're both desert planets, right? So any skins that you put on in the Armory Center in your regular play, as long as you're on that type of planet now, it's going to carry with you towards whatever buff or op planet that you attack. It's not going to carry on to the player, okay? The last thing I want to point out is how you edit your defensive outpost. Now, one thing that I see as sort of a struggle, okay, is making sure that you protect your squad center. Okay, a lot of this game is about trying to eliminate the other player's squad center first, and then the rest of the base is pretty easy to take usually. So what we could do to prevent that is, number one, you want to make sure that your squad center, which is this building right here, okay, is under at least 3 shields. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, if you have it under 2 and you're dealing against a high-level team, what can happen is they can drop, 2 shield-busting airstrikes on it and then blow up your squad center with TIE fighters, right? Also something to look for when you're playing another team. Make sure that if they don't have their squad center under at least 3 shields, then that might be a way you can take advantage of their layout and blow up their squad center before the troops come out, right? But one thing I want to note for everybody is that in this part of the game, you don't have to worry about your resources. So that means that you can just make your base in the most highly defensible position as possible without having to worry about what your resources are doing. The other question that we get most commonly is, what about my droidicas, the defensive droids? Well, do they have to be repaired in regular play for them to be repaired in the war? The answer is no. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what status they're in PvP. But if they're in a position where they're upgrading or something like that, then your droidicas will be whatever level they were before the upgrade. Okay, and then when they finish, they'll be upgraded to the next one and always active on your war base. Okay, but you want to make sure that you do your best to make your base highly defensible. Okay, and don't worry about your contraband. Don't worry about your minerals, your resource and things like that. Just make your base so that it's a strong and hard to defend against. Okay, so that when the enemy players try to beat you up, maybe they only get 1 or 2 uplinks instead of all 3. Okay, so the last thing that we want to point out, okay, is that as you upgrade, more of those buildings are going to be available. So if you change level, if you upgrade, perhaps if you go from HQ5 to HQ6, for example, make sure that you go in and edit your defensive outpost. And at the bottom here, what will happen is you'll have more buildings available in this little blackish gray bar here for you to be able to lay out on your map. It does not always match your base PvP. Okay. Last thing is showing up on time for the start of the war. So the way that it works in this game is that you always want to make sure that the swinging of the ops, or like the trading of the ops in the center here, is on your side before you make an attack. That way your chance of success for 3 stars is higher. Okay. But what I see a lot of players doing is not really showing up right at the start, and I think that games a lot of time can be make or break kind of at the front side. And what I mean by that is that it's a lot of times very difficult to come back from a strong lead if the other team has a high number of points and they have all the ops. So the best way to prevent that from happening is to be the person that's in that position. So how do you do that is you show up as soon as you can to the start of the war. The other thing you want to make sure that you do, request troops in your defensive squad center. These are going to be the troops that pop out of your squad center when the enemy goes to attack. Okay, just remember that they are different from the troops that you request going in this way and requesting for an attack, right? So showing up at the start, though, I think is key, because if you can use one of your smaller or lower level players to take an op, okay, and get that op on your side and make several attacks before the enemy really even gets a chance to make 1 or 2, that'll put you guys in a really strong position. And it's a lot harder to kind of play seesaw with the ops, like we take them all back and then we attack, they take them all back and then they attack. Okay, so you want to try to do your very best to be the aggressor on the front side of that and make sure that you take the time to be on, set an alarm on your phone, do whatever it is that you have to do, go on break for lunch or what have you. We try to make the matchups as favorable as possible, like in the timing of them. But sometimes the matchmaking system doesn't do it till early in the morning and such. But the idea is that we use a lot of the line chat. We use a lot of the different communications to try and organize a wave. You don't want to be like the lone wolf, just trying to take one planet back, because probably by the time that you reload, they'll have somebody already taking that planet back, and then you would have sort of wasted an attack, right? So just some basic concepts that we want to make sure everybody gets down. The biggest thing is teamwork, teamwork, and teamwork. Second thing is being organized, okay, and showing up on time. And the third thing is don't forget to fill up your squad center, okay? So just a couple tips for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to come check us out, this week I'm playing in Neworder-Rebel. We have several squads. Just type in Neworder Dash and you'll see Neworder Jedi, Rebel, Droids, and Respect. So come visit us here and tell them Soda sent you. Thanks so much for watching.